Good morning. Well, the Ontarians have an issue, and the issue is exemplified by the apology of the Premier, Wynne, when she said that she admits that the hydro rates in Ontario are getting out of hand. She admits that she has not been able to control the spiraling rise on the Ontario hydro rates. She admits that this failure is getting on the purse strings of the Ontarians. It is shocking and it's distressful to the Ontarians to pay through their nose for the basic necessity that is hydro, especially in the winter. But why are the rates so high? You'd be amazed that the rates are high in violation of all established rules and laws of economics. The first is that there's too much of supply and less of demand. Normally, the demand supply rules are that when the supply is more and the demand is less, the prices should fall. Here in this province is the other way around. The supply is increasing, but with the increase in supply, demand is falling and the prices per unit are going up. You see, the demand is so less that the supply cannot be used elsewhere. So, as I said earlier, government is finding innovative ways to get rid of the excess supply and even paying some US states to buy energy, hydro from Ontario. Now the simple question that should arise is, why is it happening? It is happening because the government committed a stupid mistake of signing up to buy the energy from the suppliers, and whatever the supply may be, the government has to buy that. And since the government has to buy that and give it to the Ontarians, it would not loosen its hold and it would give it free to USA, to an outsider, or rather even pay them to get it, but not give relief to the citizens of this province. So this basic flaw of the actuarians, that the bottom line should not suffer. They forget that if Ontarians get more energy at a cheaper rate, they will use it more and the budget would be balanced. Their fear is that they are already using what they need. They will not increase the use. And if the prices are reduced, the rates are reduced, the return per unit would be less and the accumulated return would be less. That's the one reason. The second reason is the too much of emphasis on green energy. The green energy is welcome, but the green energy being produced in Ontario is extremely expensive. Do you know that the total generation of green energy, I mean wind and solar in Ontario, is 6.3% of the total generation? Whether it's thermal, whether it's nuclear, whether it's hydro. So wind and solar is just 6.3%. But the cost of that 6.3% is 16.3%. So who pays for that? Naturally, the users of hydro. The whole cost goes up because of the emphasis and the subsidies on green energy. Just imagine you are paying 16.3% for 6.3%. So it is a very dicey situation. and the government and the burden is being passed to the user, to the Ontario. The third is that the watchdog is extremely weak and no power is given to the watchdog to control the independent producers. This is amazing that you appoint a watchdog and you clip his wings. You appoint a watchdog and you tie his hands behind his back, telling them that no, this is not to be done. This section is untouchable beyond your reach. So the independent producers are able to exploit the customer and get away with it. The Ontario Energy Board needs to be revamped, needs to be armed with more powers, not only on the regulated sector, but on the unregulated sector. Not only on the state actors, but also the independent producers and the distributors. This is amazing that the grievances of the Ontarians against the independent producers cannot be redressed by the energy watchdog. So the whole system of energy watchdog needs to be revamped, and it's not very difficult to do so. You need to bring in an amendment to the law. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to some of the legal fraternity, and they told me that a simple order by the Lieutenant Governor in Council can do it. An order can be issued enhancing the power. And once the powers are enhanced, the problem is solved. Not the full of it, but partly. Now, these are the three factors, but then this is not the only factor. The fourth factor is equally important. And the fourth factor is so-called time usage. Every 1st of April and every 1st of November, the times of use change. The peak time, off-peak time, mid-peak time. The government thinks, or the policy makers in the government think, that the people will make use of the hydro more in the off-peak time, which is from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and not during the peak time, which is 7 in the morning to 9 in the morning. Now imagine, the rates in the peak time are double the rates in off-peak time. But 7 to 9 is the crucial time when all the people are having breakfast, getting ready to go to the offices, kids have got to go to the school, so they've got to use it. You cannot eat a breakfast at 4 in the morning. You cannot prepare lunch at 3 in the morning. This has to be done in this time slot. Same is between 5 and 7. People come home, they need a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. So the whole thing is such a droll picture. Secondly, the smart meters that were put over there are really not smart. So why? For the simple reason, if you have one time, one rate, people would be free to use it and they'll be frugal. Now what happens is that in the peak time they try to minimize their use. In the off-peak time, they use it maximum. So naturally the total use is reduced because off-peak time is the midnight when the people don't want to wake up and use it. If it was, and then what they do is they try to find the alternative ways so that they don't have to use during the peak hours. So if there's one rate and one time, people would be using it all the time and the demand would rise and the prices can be rationalized. And the fifth most important factor is the cost of manpower, personnel. Ontario Hydro is extremely gracious and good while paying its employees. I'm nothing against that. But you pay the people not at the cost of robbing other people. To pay Paul and rob Peter, or to rob Peter and pay Paul, is not acceptable. There are 7,632 employees. And do you know the salary bill yearly? $1.07 billion. The CEOs and the higher staff is 4,279. And they get $550 million a year. The Sunshine List on Ontario Hydro is the largest number in as compared to any other department or any other agency. Now, why the salaries of Ontario Hydro people be so high? Out of sync. Why should they not be rationalized? Why should the taxpayer and the hydro user be forced to pay these high salaries, which are not commensurate and not comparable with other employees working either in the government or in the private sector or in comparative agencies? So these five factors combine to make the life of Ontarians hell, especially as far as hydro use is concerned. Is there a way out? Yes. It may not appreciably decrease the cost and the burden to the user, but it will definitely reduce to a great extent. A. You cannot withdraw the salaries today, but you can always rationalize the bonuses and the perks. They are not a part of the agreement. So rationalize their bonuses, and maybe you can clip at least 30 million out of 1.03 billion, roughly. Secondly, stop this time scheduling, off-peak, on-peak, midweek. It's of absolutely no use, rather has a deleterious and dangerous effect, a baneful effect, not a boon. Make it one time. Reduce the cost, let it be somewhere between the mid-peak, neither off-peak nor top-peak. And you would see that the Ontarians would heave a sigh of relief. Thirdly, make the energy watchdog more competent, provide it with powers, provide it with clause, and ensure that the private producer is not beyond the scope of action of the regulators. Bring everybody in the ambit, whether they are regulated producers or the private producers, whether they are public sector producers or not. Let the law be the same for everybody. Let each one of them be accountable and responsible for their actions. And then you know the most important thing. Green energy, which is just providing 6.3%, withdraw the subsidies. You would save at least 10%, at least. And 10% of 1 billion, you can understand it's quite a lot. And last, demand and supply. Let the demand and supply operate the way it should. We always pride that Canadian economy is a market economy. Then why are the hindrances being put in the operation of the market economy of Canada as far as hydro is concerned? I mean Ontario Hydro. Is it not monopolistic? Is it not the exploitation of the people and the users? As a matter of fact, it is a violation of my human rights that you are discriminating against the Ontarian in favor of the user in USA, who is an outsider, who doesn't pay you taxes, and who is getting the plum. So, it is imperative that the government takes action today. And you as an Ontarian, ensure that your MPP is not a dumb lackey of the party, but is really your spokesperson, and comes up with these ideas in the parliament and ensures that the action is taken. Otherwise, be prepared to be ripped off. Be prepared to be plundered and looted. Be prepared to pay through your nose for necessities of life.